The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Planted with Sarah Pine. I'm Sarah Pine, your host, and we are in Craft Farmer Month. And throughout these episodes, we're celebrating the farmers who remind us that cannabis at its best is an art form rooted in stewardship, family, and the land. Today, I'm joined by Amy Neukom of Neukom Family Farm, a beautiful example of what happens when art history and regenerative agriculture come together. From their roots in Northern California's organic farming community to their careful approach to cultivation, the Neukom family embodies the craft spirit. Amy, welcome to Planted, and I have been so looking forward to us talking.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Absolutely. And because it's your first time with me, I got to ask you, what was your first cannabis experience?
I've thought about this. What I was going to say, I think my most memorable first cannabis experience had to do with consuming hash. I was about 19, headed into New York City in a minivan with my boyfriend and his friend named Sluggo. And before we were going to go to the Indian restaurant, Sluggo suggested that we consume some hash. And so I said, okay. And did that, and boy, headed into this Indian restaurant in the heart of New York City and probably had one of the best meals of my life. Just really, it was an incredible experience. It was very opening to my mind about the tastes and the experience. Then we went to a reggae festival and had a great time.
Oh, that's awesome. I am of the strong belief that everything tastes better with hash.
Yes. For sure.
So how did you go from that experience to having the farm and cultivation? And for those who are listening, Neukom Family Farm isn't solely a cannabis cultivator. They are known for their produce, and everybody that I mentioned that Amy was going to be on the show was singing the praises of her peaches.
Yeah. So I think part of my journey to end up here and actually cultivating cannabis probably did start with some of those early experiences, definitely like conscious altering, mind opening experiences with cannabis. It wasn't like I set out to be a cannabis farmer officially, but it did open up something that I guess I can't really put my finger on, but I guess what it did for me was allowed me to freely decide my destiny and my journey rather than, I was pretty much grew up in New Jersey around a lot of people that were entering finance, et cetera, and it just didn't feel right for me. And so I took a journey to college in a different place and then ended up kind of touching the West Coast. As soon as I did, I knew it sort of felt like the tribe for me. Ended up gardening in Seattle and then just really decided I wanted to take it to the next level of farming, and hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 96 and kind of entered Humboldt County through the back door, farming out in Orleans. Everybody was kind of doing the guerrilla gardening back then. It was pretty amazing what people were pulling off. In the national forests, basically. It wasn't even on private land at that point. And just sort of kind of went with it, but never really grew huge, never really participated in that part, but mostly food farming. But then, backyard, personal use kind of stuff. But then when it opened up in 2016, we just said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's have it part of our farm. It's a diversification for us. I'm standing in the middle of our farm right now. If you looked at it, you would never really believe that there was any kind of separation. The only bummer is that we cannot rotate the cannabis, which is like a core principle of organic farming, in order to kind of like shed diseases each year, each season. You kind of move it to a different place, and we cannot do that with cannabis. So that's one of our biggest challenges, is treating an annual like a perennial. And how do you do that best? How do you best steward that plant so that it doesn't accumulate disease pressure, pest pressure? So
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you were saying 96 and the PCT, because that was actually when I landed in San Francisco, and I was
Uh-huh.
working at a dress shop in the Haight, and one of my coworkers, she was actually in the midst of training to do the trail. And that was the
Uh-huh.
first time I'd heard of it.
Nice.
And I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, that is so long."
Yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing journey. And it was my first introduction into Humboldt County, the back way, swimming the Salmon River. Actually, a bunch of hikers hiking out from Syed Valley to go to the Arcata Plaza to buy us some weed for the trail. So,
Did you do the whole thing?
yes, yes,
Wow, that's an
did.
accomplishment.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's
Pretty
really
amazing journey.
cool. Well, and then looking at what you're doing with the farm itself, I mean, I know that you can't rotate the crops.
Hmm.
And when you really look at it too, it's just even having cannabis with other traditional agriculture is a huge step to changing hearts and minds, and really
100%.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it shows like the new way of modern agriculture. Like
Hmm.
we've always looked at cannabis as like this illicit substance. Like there's, some of
Right.
the earlier activists were like, it's not radioactive. And when somebody actually sees a plant, it brings it home.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we do a lot of farm tours here. Um, Mostly on, well, I mean, I guess it's a little bit of both. Sometimes the cannabis studies group comes from Cal Poly, but it's really fun to watch. Doc mostly does the tours, and to watch them go through the farm and then they hit the cannabis. And, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, they've just never really seen it growing, I guess, as kind of casually as we grow it. Like, this is just part of our farm. And speaking to people at farmers markets about it, like, it's a lot of reduce the stigma kind of work of
Yeah.
just, I think it's a good thing to be able to show people, like, I'm still shocked at how long the stigma has been hanging out. I thought once legalization happened, we would be on our way to exploring the beauty of this plant together as a culture, as a community.
I think it's the opportunities for the experience, like what you do with having farm tours. I mean, I was teaching a class at the California Institute of Integral Studies, which is my alma mater, and they
Mm-hmm.
have a acupuncture school there. And so I was teaching about cannabis as medicine with a nurse and a physician. And, because of the opium wars and colonialization, cannabis, which was once part of the Chinese pharmacopoeia, had become very stigmatized, and they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
reopen that conversation. So I ended up bringing a big bouquet of fresh colas in a vase and put it on my desk. And, they had never smelled a fresh cola, much less, an undried plant. And so it was really eye-opening. I think just to
Mm-hmm.
see it like still living is something that I think changes hearts and minds. But you built your reputation on farming with integrity and respect for the earth. What core values guide your work every day?
I think a large part of it is participating in community, and that participation is providing the purest, most intentional, um, be it the cannabis flower or the peach or the tomato, being able to make that connection with people on just, it's so pure and so good for you that that's the best we can offer, and that is such an amazing connection for us. I've done a lot of meditation in my past, and that kind of has always come through, like, what's right livelihood, and right livelihood to me is just really, like, no sprays, nothing that could harm anybody, no plastic, no whatever. Just being able to share that with people. Money just happens to have to be in the middle of it, but if it didn't have to be, I would still work as hard as we do.
Yeah, that the intentionality that you have really shows through, and that is something
Mm-hmm.
that when we were looking at who we wanted to feature from Craft Farmer Month, that was something that came up consistently when your name and farm came up.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe your cultivation style?
Well, it's been evolving because we've been farming for 30 years. So, and I'm very lucky that I met Jacques in this journey really early on in 2003, because I feel like he has such a similar mindset about it as I do. And of course, organic principles. We're certified organic, although we're not certified organic with our cannabis starting this year because it was just kind of honestly felt a little bit like throwing money away at this point, because first of all, you can't even really fit that on the label because there's so much other stuff that has to be on the labels. And then it's just not recognized or appreciated yet, but I think it will be. We'll probably jump back on that. But anyway, I forget where I was going. What I'm sorry, what
Oh,
did you,
the your
the
cultivation
cultivation?
style. How
Okay.
would you describe
Okay.
it?
So we just really we listen a lot to the land, to the plants that we work with. What do they want? What's going to be peak for them? How do they want to be grown? How much water do they want? Do they want any water? That kind of thing is, we've spent a lot of time doing that. We've spent a lot of time trying to close loops on our farm, so that we are now making our own compost and using that primarily for our fertilization practices, a lot of cover crops. And we do something called the soil food web technique about fungal to bacterial ratio, really paying attention to what goes into our soils, what our soils are reading, so that just basically really giving the plants the best base for them to grow to their fullest.
And how, yeah, I know that you really lean on regenerative and sustainable practices. How do you balance traditional farming knowledge with modern testing and compliance requirements?
Mm. um, ooh, um,
And I know it's a dance. I mean, it seems like
yeah.
it's one.
As far as cannabis goes, um, it's like I said, the biggest frustration is not being able to fully rotate the crop and just have it in a different place every year. So um, it pushes us to be ultra intuitive with what they need and what's going on with them. It definitely is like the biggest challenge with the cannabis is trying to mitigate any kind of disease or pest pressure that might creep in because they've been in the same place every year.
Mm-hmm.
My county says that'll change at some point, and I really hope that's true because I would love to just see it skip around like the rest of the crops do, like our melons, tomatoes, um, broccoli, all that other stuff, winter squash. It'd be nice to have it be in different places so that it can not build up any pressure and then feel like we have to use something hardcore and maybe that would affect the testing. Like kind of one of my, I think we're in year 7 or so in the same place. So and we might start seeing some more creep of some disease pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably the most frustrating thing for me.
Give the gift that everyone will remember this holiday season, the 12 J's of Christmas gift box. This limited edition collection features 12 premium pre-rolls from 12 sun-grown farms in Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity counties. It's the ultimate gift for craft cannabis lovers and a way to support small farmers in the Emerald Triangle. Hurry, quantities are limited. Reserve yours now at emeraldtrianglecraft.com. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's well, I mean, when we look at regulations around agriculture and agricultural practices in general, when you're looking at large scale The UN had reported that as of this year, if we continue going the way we do, not using regenerative and sustainable practices, that the earth has about 50 harvests left. So, getting to educate our regulators on how these practices, whether it's cannabis or other agriculture, is incredibly important so that we are able to create more programs to educate farmers who may not understand how to be the best stewards of the land. And I think the work that's being done in cannabis with regenerative sustainable farming is a great model for that. And to push really having that, it's like yes, and having that and having the freedom to rotate your crops and getting regulators to understand the impact that has on the soil, and that's much more impactful and good for the earth and good for consumers than having these strict guidelines that actually make no sense, that are just coming from stigma.
Exactly. Yep. Agreed.
So I just love how farmers like you are both scientists and artists. There's this deep understanding of nature's rhythms that doesn't always translate on a spreadsheet.
Yes. Or the fact that we even have to do spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's because with being certified organic, we're definitely like, they're checking records for us. And sometimes I'll look at Jacques and be like, why do we have to record every single melon that comes in and out of the cold room? And next year is going to be totally different. I'm not going to look back on these records and be like, whoa, I didn't grow as many of these melons last year. And like, who cares?
Right?
I grew melons.
You get your spreadsheets for the overthinkers.
Yeah.
When we talk about craft cannabis, it's a term that gets used a lot, but it means different things to different people. What does it mean to you?
That's a good question. I think it has some really deep roots into who the cultivator is, and how their energy is coming through the plant. I feel like cannabis, one thing I love so much about cannabis is how much it expresses the intention, the love of the cultivators, the farmers, the people that work with it. Like, it's really important for us that the people that are helping us process the cannabis at the end are people that are well-intentioned, positive. I just really feel like this plant just really grabs that spirit and puts it back out into the plant and the medicine for people. So that's one of the aspects. The other part of craft for me is like carefully deciding what goes into the garden. I work really closely with Jesse Dodd from BioVortex. He's just an amazing, well-intentioned spiritual person who carefully creates incredible strains through seed saving, seed production. We're often going through and looking at different aspects of the genetics and in our plot. And so those are two of the things that I think. It's also I think I'll just keep it at that.
Yeah, well, as you're saying this, I'm thinking about cannabis as a bioaccumulator, and I talk about that a lot when I teach classes or work with policymakers. But when you talk about like intention and how the plant turns out, it's kind of the term that popped in my mind is almost like universal bioaccumulator, because it pulls what's in the air, it pulls what's in the ground, it absorbs intention. It's, and you feel that. Like, I think one of the things that I enjoy going into so many different farmers' gardens is just feeling the imprint of the farmer, not only in the, in the plants and the energy, but in the style in which you cultivate, because they're all so unique and beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And we're so lucky here. There's so many amazing growers, and they have freely shared their knowledge with us on our journey, and they're incredible community members. It's been great to have them help us with this part of our farm for sure. You can always call those people up and ask them questions anytime, and they will freely share their knowledge. I think that's a beautiful thing.
It is. I love when I talk to farmers and they discuss other farms, and it's like, you're all each other's biggest cheerleaders. It's like, oh, you need to talk to so and so, and and then you get all like the high points of, unintended, fun intended. Of like, you've got to check out this flower, or look at the way that they do this, and it's just so it's really energizing to have those conversations and to hear the excitement. I mean, because we are going through some difficult growing pains, but you still feel the love and the excitement from the people who are growing some of the best cannabis in the world.
Yeah.
So how do you communicate the difference, when going back to craft cannabis, to consumers who might not know the story behind the plant in your farm?
I guess I would back up and say I wish I could directly communicate with my consumers of my cannabis, but I don't, and I can't. And that's part of the frustrating, like there's no direct to consumer pipeline. So I'm going to go on tour this winter down to LA and San Francisco with Scott from Humble Family Farms. This is the main brand that I'm part of. He's an incredible friend that also hiked the PCT that I've been collaborating with. He's been really helping get our cannabis out into the world. And I guess I think it's a really important piece of the puzzle, and it's very frustrating because I'm so used to at farmers market talking to people who directly consume my produce about our farm and about the energies of these and the varieties and the stories. And there's just really a difficult avenue in cannabis to do that. And there's so many people are flooded at the dispensaries. There's so many different choices, and you have to purchase things differently there. You can't really smell things or look at them, and out of sight of packaging. So I wish that I had a way to better communicate my farm story.
Yeah, I am so glad that Scott is working with farmers like you to be able to help elevate the stories. I mean, it's back in the 215 days when I first started working in cannabis, and for our listeners, that would be the medicinal days in California before we got legalization. But we had jars of cannabis, so people would actually be able to see and smell the buds that we would send them home with. They would try to touch them, and I would tell them not to. Everyone wants to squeeze a bud, and it's so we were able to have a more intimate relationship with aroma, bud structure, even for my consultants behind the bar. I feel like they had a better education because they weren't just looking at it through a jar. They were actually able to work with the flower. But at that point in time, we didn't talk about who the farmers were because we were still dealing with federal raids and a lot of things were going on. Now we have this ability to speak freely, but it does seem like there's even more space between the farmer and the consumer, especially with it being treated more like a consumer packaged good than produce.
Definitely.
Tell me about some of the cultivars that you're especially excited about right now. What makes them stand out for you?
One of the big things that we've been working on with Humble Family Farms, because pre-rolls are so popular, is we've been combining different strains with, two different like different plants with different plants kind of thing, not just in that one plant, but like one thing that I'm excited about is Jesse brought into our lives a cultivar named Sapphire Sue, which is like black sapphire crossed with Harlessu. And I know that Tina also grows it from Moonmade. And so it can be a 3-to-1 or a 2-to-1 CBD THC. It has it's tasty. And so what we started doing is we took that, I'm with the understanding that people sometimes want a higher THC, but not super high. We take that with a higher THC, combine it and put it in a pre-roll. And so that's been like really popular. And that's really nice because it's people that don't want like a 20 plus THC, but they want a little kicker. But then the CBD in the Sapphire Sue really helps to kind of balance it out. It's a really nice, like the entourage effect is really nice in those. So we do that one. So I'm pretty excited about that. Sapphire Sue's been with us since like 2018. 2017.
That's one of my favorites. I love Sapphire Sue. And I think we've been doing this race to the top with THC. And then, there are people who have been smoking for a long time, myself included, who were like, I can handle the higher THC, but so many of my peers who are not in cannabis are like, what happened to the feel with cannabis? It feels so much stronger. It feels different. Is it me? Right. Is it what? And I always direct them back to the ratios. I'm like, listen, when we were smoking when we were younger, a lot of the minor cannabinoids were not bred out like they had been, especially as we had to bring things indoors and it became more about, how high octane we could get things, especially because, everything was underground. So you're kind of like, louder, faster. And people really resonate with that when they're turned on to it. I mean, I've had so many people who have tried it and said, this is what I remember. This is what I liked. And I feel like we're starting to have more conversations about CBD to THC ratios, or, we were just at Emerald Spirit Botanicals and they do a lot of ratios, and their work with like CBG and THCV. I feel like that combined with Sungrown, having more conversations about the balance is where we have more people engaged in cannabis and also looking at it as more of something that they can use for wellness and just general balance rather than solely euphoric effects. Not that euphoria is a bad thing, but there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. I agree with that.
So how do you approach genetics and phenoselection? Do you experiment with new varieties or do you tend to honor your tried and true lines? Humboldt Seed Company from California's legendary Emerald Triangle is the state's largest licensed cannabis seed provider. Blending traditional breeding with modern innovation, they've created fan favorites like Jelly Donuts, Chicken and Waffles, California Haze, and the cult classic Blueberry Muffin. Visit HumboldtSeedCompany.com for top quality seeds and educational content. And keep an eye out for their upcoming Uruguay documentary. With pheno hunts at leading farms worldwide, Humboldt Seed Company brings unique aromas and flavors straight to you.
I think we do a little bit of both, kind of the way we do our main crops, like our tomatoes. I'm always throwing a little bit of experimentation. Same with our melons and trying we did sweet potatoes successfully this year. So it's kind of like that. It's like talk with Scott, because I think 90% of my stuff goes through Humboldt Family Farms. What worked, what didn't work, what would you like to see? And then Jesse comes in with, like, he does some really great breeding selections for hash varieties. So we talk about it, and whatever he's excited about, I'll be willing to try some. And then just, the proof is in the, whatever they say, like, try it after it's done. What does that hash taste like? Is that amazing? Yes, that's amazing. We introduced hazelnut cream. He introduced hazelnut cream thanks to Sam from Dab Logic, Colorado, came in. He's been breeding a lot with it, trying it in hash form. It's incredible. It's uplifting, not kind of couch locking or debilitating. I like love to clean after I've done a dab of hazelnut cream. So I like those kinds of varieties that are uplifting and conscious altering, like really like exuberant way, rather than like and there's a place and time for ones that make you want to sleep. There's a place and time for ones that are uplifting and like really like alertness. So we kind of just do a little bit of both. I've been chasing this or something. It used to be it was called Orange Velvet way back in the day.
I remember Orange Velvet.
We all had it here probably like 10, 15 years ago. Somebody came, oh, this is Orange Velvet. We tried it. And we all like, none of us ever buy weed in Humboldt County. We actually ponied up money for a bag of that because it was so good. So I was chasing that through, I think it was Subcool, had Agent Orange. It was kind of like Agent Orange, and it was like transition. And then finally I found from Jason at Equilibrium, something called African Orange, which had some of it in there. Loved it. And then now it's segued into something called African Sherb. And just have that, I think I'll always have some of that growing. It smells delicious. It reminds me of it. So it's kind of like a little bit of history, a little bit of messing with things, letting things come in as they want to come in, and then keeping some things if they want to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I saved seeds from so many of my favorite cultivars that we can't find now. And somewhere along the way it got lost, and I always think about it. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Yep.
Where is it now? And if wherever
exactly. Yep.
Oh boy. So you've spoken on how your farm is truly a family effort. What role does family play in the daily life of the farm?
Seasonally, it changes a lot. Jock and I are always on the ground farming all year. We have one full-time employee, one part-time employee all year. And then in the summer, when my girls are off from school, they're like 5-6 days working on the farm with us, picking peaches, sorting, a lot of farmers markets. We do 2 farmers markets a week. They're always selling there. Haven't quite been in the cannabis yet because they're not of age. But yeah, it is truly a family farm, and it even goes beyond that. We've had family supporting us, like our extended families supporting us financially to be able to purchase the pieces of land that we now farm. We were renting for so long. So it truly does feel like a family farm on that level, because it's just we've been very fortunate to have our families supporting us in many levels in this endeavor. So that's why it's so important to give back to the community what we have been given. Just pay it forward. Healthy food, healthy flour.
Yeah, absolutely. How does working alongside family shape the way you make decisions or plan for the future?
Jacques and I are an incredible team. Like we were both farming individually before we met. And then when we met and got together and farmed together, it feels like 1 + 1 = 10,000. Like the synergy is, we're just always just kind of operate as one unit. Like, I don't know, it just works. It just, if you find that person that you can do this kind of work with all the time, I just feel really lucky that we do that. And then the girls, they're our best tasters. They're just like, oh, this is right. This is ripe now. This is ready. Yep. This is good. So it's just, it's very synergistic. It really just works great.
That's awesome. I know as somebody who, Jeff and I, my husband, we work together, and people are always like, wow, it's amazing that you and your husband work so well. I'm like, I know, because we've all had those relationships where it's like you look at the person, you're like, I like you, wouldn't work with you.
It wouldn't work with you, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of drive and passion when you're aligned. When you
Yeah.
when you look into the future, what do you see for the next generation of farmers, whether it's your kids or young people just starting out?
I hope to see more of them. We are in an incredible, not just for cannabis, but also for food farming in Humboldt County. We have a very, very vibrant farming scene. We're very, very supported by the community. We now have a hub, a harvest hub that spreading it out to the schools, hospitals, senior centers, restaurants. I hope to see more of that. I really hope that what we have in Humboldt County can be replicated across the country. We're very lucky. We're supported by California, has given, the USDA has cut off a ton of money for farming, but California has kept to continue to support farm to school programs, regenerative farmer programs. So I'm really hoping that what we can create in California can be spread throughout the country. And I just see people becoming successful in smaller pieces of land, which is great. It becomes more of a regional, local situation. If they're supported by the community, and they can actually make a living off of a smaller piece of land. And so that's what I hope to see.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I mean, we get a CSA box. We always like to support our local farmers, and I have to say, like, what we get in our box every week is so much better than what we get in the grocery store, even our fancy grocery store that has like the organic produce. I think I might have mentioned this to you before, but we did a little test with what we got in our box, what we got from our fancy grocery store, and then also a friend of ours had been growing tomatoes, and I did a comparison, and I was like, the farm box was really good, I have to say. But what we got from our friend, just like growing on her own, was even better. And then because it's like it was an even smaller footprint of a cultivation. And then what we got from our fancy grocery store looked beautiful. They were beautiful heirloom tomatoes, and they tasted better than, say, the hothouse tomatoes, but they had nothing on the other two.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the keys to that, as far as flavor goes and nutritional value, is the smaller you are, the closer to that perfect time frame to pick something, to harvest something you can be. It's one of our kind of niches. People always say how delicious our fruit is, and we always say, well, we pick it ripe.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that on a big piece of land. You just can't do it. Like we see people picking their peaches and putting them into macro bins, like those huge like bins. And we just like, it breaks our heart because like we have incredible farmers that help us that are climbing trees with the box that peach is going to be in for you to buy.
Yeah.
Like it's because it's that ripe. It can't go into anything more than a single layer box. It would bruise. And like to be able to get that kind of value or that kind of like energetically vibrating piece of fruit or flower or whatever, it just has to be smaller. It can't be these humongous, plots of land. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like every time that I get fruits or vegetables or cannabis for that matter from a small farm, it's like there's just this, to me, there's like this jewel like property to it where it looks beautiful, it smells beautiful, it tastes beautiful, and there's nothing quite like it. It's
Exactly.
yeah, you can't replicate that in a large footprint. Going into, revisiting, the craft market and the conversation about it, seeing its share of ups and downs. What are some of the biggest challenges you're facing as a small farmer today? This episode is brought to you by Fat Nugs Magazine, a global perspective of cannabis and stoner culture as a bridge to the rest of the world. Right now, you can join Fat Nugs Magazine, Beard Bros Farms, Freedom Grow, and Jailed for Weed in the upcoming Prisoners Edition and help spotlight current and past cannabis prisoners and their stories, because no one should be in jail for a plant. Find Fat Nugs Magazine's beautiful print copies at your local dispensary, fatnugsmag.com, and on socials. Cannabis culture welcomes us all.
I think part of it is the unpredictable climate.
Yeah.
We're at a place with our, especially some of the tree fruit definitely tends to suffer with those really big heat spikes we have in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really, we have now put shade cloth over our, I think it's been about 10 years now that we have to shade our heirloom tomatoes so they don't sunburn. And you just can't really do that with orchards. They're just too big. So like a lot of those heat spikes, we get burning. Also, the trees are not as vigorous. The younger trees we've planted, because I have a harder time establishing with those kinds of heat spikes, because we dry farm all of our perennials. And so it was easier to get them established in the past without watering. So that's definitely some of the challenges that we see. I think it's mostly climate driven.
Do you see it more challenging as climate change continues?
Oh yeah, I see it exponentially being challenging. I mean, I can't even honestly really picture my kids being able to farm the way we farm right now.
Yeah.
It will be much more difficult with the unpredictable rains and the heat. It was very different when I moved here 20 years ago, and that's crazy to think in 20 years that you've seen a change like that.
Yeah, it is. It's also crazy to think that there are people out there who want to say that it's not happening when it's just so obvious.
Yeah. As Jamaica can probably attest to right now.
Yeah, no kidding. What do they say? It's like the biggest storm in their history.
Yeah,
they're anticipating.
It's breaking all kinds of records for hurricane right now, and it's just hitting. I mean, we'll only see the true, devastation afterwards, but it looks. So it's stuff like that.
Yeah. That's what reminds me that we're all just kind of little ants on a big rock hurtling through the sky. Oh man. How do you stay motivated and hopeful in the face of industry pressures like licensing, distribution, and pricing?
I stay hopeful because I feel like the cannabis is medicine that has always been, in lockstep with humankind, and here it is. It's growing. It's beautiful. Whether or not it's financially viable, I think we'll always grow it. If somebody needs the medicine or wants the medicine, I can't imagine it kind of going away.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel hopeful that, it's kind of like the way we have the rest of our crops, like it's pure, it's medicine, it's spiritual, it's energizing, it's only going to be healthy for you. So it's here to stay. And, I'll probably die up in a tree harvesting something or whatever. I can't imagine. And I'm hopeful that there's younger generations that will carry it on in the face of all the climatic challenges we're facing. It changes, cannabis changes people's consciousness every day. So how can it not? It's sneaky like that. It's like amazing like that, right? It's like once, how many people are still farming and doing it because of those experiences they had when they were 19, 20, 21.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we were just talking about the fact that there aren't a lot of direct consumer events, opportunities for you to really to talk to people. And we're trying to change that. I mean, part of this
I
podcast
know.
is about, we, of course, we get a lot of folks from the industry listening, and hello out there, all of you who are, but we
Hmm.
also get a lot of consumers and kind of curious folks that
Hmm.
listen. What do you wish consumers and policymakers better understood about craft farmers and the value that they bring?
Well, first of all, I am so thankful that you do this podcast, and I think it is very valuable for kind of curious people who might want to make the jump and find out what it's all about. Um, and what do I? Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to thank you, but
Oh, thank you.
ask me the question again.
Sure. What do you wish consumers and policymakers better understood about craft farmers
Oh,
and the value they bring?
um, I wish that they better understood how much something like metrics took up our time for frivolous data mining of us, because I just really feel like there's a lot of. I guess I'll just give you an instance. Like part of our farm we kind of bought a piece of property that has wine grapes on it. Already had wine grapes on it, right?
Hmm.
And we don't really. We kind of grew that. They're still growing now. It's been different people have been tending them, and they basically take them and make wine with them, right? And alcohol is not always a healthy consumptive. And I don't know how to say that, but um, we have never ever been asked, where do those wine grapes go? How much did you harvest? Where's the receipts for it? Did you record how much the cuttings were on the ground? All of that kind of stuff. We've never been asked anything about our wine grapes. And to just be bogged down by the amount of paperwork that metric makes us do in our daily lives is insane. So that is like one thing I wish that they understood. Like, it is hard enough to be a farmer, but then to have to go and do like massive amounts of recording. Um, I wish they paid us for that, because I'm sure they love the metrics and to fool around with the numbers and how much of this and how much of that. But like, I just don't feel like that's fair. If you're going to do that to us, then do it to all the rest of wine grapes and tobacco. I don't know, tobacco, whatever. Like, it just seems so onerous to have to
Yeah.
do all of that.
Yeah, it does. And it just smacks of past stigma, because in this day
Yeah.
and age, like, we're not worried about that cannabis passing off into the illicit market or other places. I mean, we have very simple solutions for that the state is not looking at, which is
Right.
lowering the barrier to entry, lowering
Hmm.
taxation, and lowering permits and all the things that go with it. Because the one thing that always gets me when we're getting into cannabis, whether we're in California or any other state, is that the government looks at it as a panacea and a boon. But also, the longer that I've worked in policy, the more I get the fact that government and the elected officials don't understand economics at all, which you'd never have a company. If you look at like a state set up as like a business, you'd never have a company where the CEO and the CFO didn't know anything about economics.
Hmm.
So, if we, and I've said this many times on the state level, if we lowered all of this, the state actually would be making more money. We wouldn't be
Right.
spending the money on enforcement. And we'd have more people participating in the legal market, both as consumers and also as businesses. And that makes
Hmm.
strong communities, because a lot of these
Yeah.
businesses are small businesses. And, it's like, as we saw, now still, but especially in the past, like going up to the Emerald Triangle with all these small farms, and the way that you support your community and put money in your community, not only in purchasing power, but in employment, it really made a huge difference to like your social structure, your community events, your
Yes.
educational programs.
100%. Yes. Definitely.
I'm not so, I just don't understand why it's for so hard for them to learn, and why there are so many, how would you say, just like so many hurdles to get somebody to listen and to see it when it's so
Mm,
very simple, and then they could use their energy to fixing some of the bigger problems.
right. Yep.
Sorry, I'm like, hi, Amy, let's preach to the converted. But when you look ahead, whether we're looking at 5 or 10 years from now, what does a healthy California cannabis landscape look like to you?
I would love to be able to sell it side by side with my produce at farmers market. To be able to educate people directly about what we have to offer. I would love to see mail order around the country, interstate, like whole legalization of the whole country. And then also be able to sell, Humboldt, Emerald Triangle to the rest of the world. I mean, I think that's where we would be thriving is, there's been so many decades put into the honing the craft in Humboldt in Emerald Triangle that should be rewarded and it is respected and known throughout the world, and it would be so nice if it could just be shared that way legally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like once we get into interstate commerce, that's when the craft farms really start to thrive. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
we look at wine. I mean, I've been here now for almost 30 years, and I'm originally from Michigan. I could buy Michigan wine.
Mm-hmm.
It's made, and it's definitely something I think people try when they visit. But when I think about buying something for my dinner guests, I'm going to look at something that's from the Pacific Northwest in California,
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh.
that's where all the good grapes are grown. Or, or if I want to get like, really old school and fancy and have something that's totally unoaked, I'll go French. You know?
Yeah.
But I think that we really, there's a call, there's a need for this. And, I know that the MSOs feel very threatened by the idea of interstate commerce, but there will always be room for them as well. There will always be a market for mids, because we have
Mm-hmm.
people from all different interests and income levels that want to have safe access to cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just like talking to you, and even in the midst of all of this, your optimism is so contagious, and I think it's one of the things that keeps this community so special is our love and our optimism around the plant. But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about starting a small farm or entering the cannabis space with a craft mindset?
I would say I would hope they would have 100% passion behind them, love for the plant. Like that's what's going to carry them through, because um, I'm not sure if it all pencils out. So, you know, that being said, like it's kind of like farming. Like when Jacques and I started, there was very few farmers markets. I mean, I lived up in Seattle. There wasn't even a farmers market other than Pike Place Market, and that was all high stalling. So it's just like, what carried us through to like thinking that maybe we could make this a viable livelihood in the future. It was just our passion for growing, for producing high quality food, high quality cannabis. If that's your passion, if you love it that much, and there's a lot of people out there that do, like start there, don't try to make it like, don't quit your day job. Like plenty of people have to have second jobs, second livelihoods, or spouses that have another job to carry it through. But just like, I really do feel like that kind of passion in life is what can fuel you into creating the world that you want to live in, the world that you want to create for yourself, the job, the livelihood. Just have to have that passion and love behind it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And for listeners that want to learn more about Neukom Family Farm, where can they find you or follow your journey online?
We're not very online-y, but um, we do have an Instagram account. So Neukom Family Farm. It's funny, I post mostly stories. Jacques posts mostly posts. So every once in a while something will pop up, some cool pictures or a cool story. And we don't have a website. Humble Family Farms, I guess I would say, is our, the brand that we work with. And that's kind of, they do a lot of social media outreach because brands have to. And every once in a while we'll be in stories there. I think they have a great website. I'm sure it's humblefamilyfarms.com, I'm thinking. And our story is there. The story of the collective of farmers is there. So I guess those are the two places.
Yeah. Oh, and then for our listeners, if you go to the Humboldt Family Farms website, you'll also see all the different dispensaries that Amy is carried at. So check it out because it's beautiful. It's beautiful flower. I really enjoy what you've been doing with Scott. I was really excited to talk to you. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining me today and for the work that you're doing.
Thank you for your work.
Oh, absolutely. It's a labor of love. It's like I wake up every morning and in the midst of all the chaos, I love our work. It's the best.
Exactly.
And to our listeners, thanks for being a part of Planted with Sarah Pine. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and check out our other Craft Farmer Month conversations. Amy, you are welcome back anytime. Thank you for taking the time because you were in the midst of harvest and I know it's a crazy season. So for you to step away from the farm for even a moment to talk to me thank you for sharing and being so generous with your time.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Until next time, my friend.
All right. Take care.
You too. And everyone, remember, if you like listening, please give us a review, share it with a friend. Let us know what your favorite episodes are. And if you'd like to stay in touch over social media, we are Planted with Sarah Pion on Facebook and Planted with Sarah on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website, www.plantedwithsarah.com, or listen to us on our parent network, Radio Misfits Network, where there are other great podcasts, like one of my favorites, the Winemakers Podcast. So check it out. You can listen to Planted wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, whether that's Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, Stitcher, tune in. We are there. So join us. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, it's a wild world out there. Be good to one another. Until next time, take care.